Hello and welcome to my fifth lecture on electromagnetism. In this lecture, I am going to discuss the concept or idea behind the gradient operator. Basically, you already have been introduced to the gradient operator when you did the first order derivative for a one-dimensional function. One-dimensional function means the function fx that depends on the one or single independent variable. And when you did the first order derivative for the one dimensional function at any particular point, that operation informs you the slope of that function at that point. And what is the significance of the slope? Slope means how fast the function is changing if you move along its independent variable. So that informs us the first order derivative informs us regarding the how fast the function gets changed. You can take an example of the speed or velocity. If you plot the velocity of a man or of a car uh, in an xy coordinate, that means the displacement along the y-axis and the time on the x-axis, then the slope dx dt should represent the velocity, and at each and every point on that particular curve, the velocity curve, it defines the slope or how fast the velocity or how fast the particle or the person moves along the its independent variable. In this case, that was the time. In a similar way, when you apply this idea in case of three-dimensional function, and three-dimensional function means the function that depends on the three independent variables. In this case, the three space coordinates, that means x, y, and z. So, the first order derivative for the three-dimensional function is called the gradient. And according to the significance of the first order derivative, which informs us that the how fast the function gets changed when you move along its independent variable, uh, in this case the gradient in a similar manner informs us that along which direction that three-dimensional function gets changed in a fastest manner. That means the result of the gradient operator becomes a vector because it informs you regarding some directions along which the function gets changed faster. So, in terms of the gradient and the first order derivative, both are similar in nature, but the operation, the gradient operation, the result of the gradient operation becomes a vector. And this is a very important operation because you will see when I will discuss the electromagnetic field and the potential, you will see the potential is a scalar field, and when you will operate the gradient operator over the scalar field, you will get the vector field, and that is nothing but the electric field. So, let's start the gradient operation.
In this lecture, I will first start with the general description of the position, displacement and the separation vector, because in order to understand the gradient operation, you must need to know these terms, that means the position, displacement and the separation vectors. In electromagnetism, whenever you are going to refer a particular point, that means the address of that point, in this case for example the address of this point, always you have to refer a fixed point in a particular coordinate system that you are using. In this case, the rectangular coordinate system I am using, where the fixed point is called the origin, and with respect to the origin, if you draw a vector at this point, maybe that is a source point, the source can be a unit charge or anything, any disturbance. So the coordinate of the source point, if here as here I have considered, that is x dash, y dash and z dash. So this is with respect to the origin O, or the center of the coordinate system. In a similar way, the location or the coordinate of this point, which I may refer as the field point, the point at which I'm interested, or we are interested to find the field due to the presence of the source at this particular point. And in general, we refer the coordinate of a field point as x, y, and z. So these positions, since these vector are representing the positions of a particular point. So these are called the position vectors. So this r dash is a position vector of the source point, which has the coordinate of x dash, y dash and z dash, and r represents the position vector of the field point, which has a coordinate x, y and z. And we will refer the position vector for those vectors which are indicating or which actually representing the vector with respect to the origin of a coordinate system. This r, capital R here, it is not the position vector, rather it will be called a separation vector, because as from the rule of the addition or subtraction that I have discussed in my last lecture, you can see or you can easily find out that r is the nothing but the difference between these 2 points. Therefore, the vectors which are referred with respect to the origin, they will be called the position vector. So here r dash is the position vector of the source point and r is the position vector of the field point. On the other hand, these r represents the separation vector, and you can easily write this r with respect to its coordinates, which basically are the components of this r vector. So along the x direction, it is x for this r vector, and along the y direction, that is y cap represented by y cap, it takes the value y, and along the z direction it takes the value z. So that's why the vector x, y, z will be the position of or the coordinate of the field point, and this vector which represents the position vector of the field point is denoted by this r. And similar discussion can be applied for the r dash also. So magnitude of this r already we have seen from the dot product of itself, that will represent the magnitude of the r. So that is x square plus y square or z square, and the magnitude of this r dash is nothing but the root over of square of each of its components. And as I have mentioned in my previous lecture, that the unit vector r dash or r cap represents the direction along the vector r itself. On the other hand, the unit vector r dash represents the unit vector along the r dash itself. And in a similar way, you can easily derive the unit vector corresponding to the capital R, which obviously will indicate the along the direction of the arrowhead of this capital R. Now let's consider that this r vector or the position of this coordinate x, y, z is very close to the source point. That means suppose this is the x, y and z, and this one is representing the r vector instead of this one. Therefore, the distance between this field or source point and the field point is very small, and if the distance is infinitesimal, then the coordinate of the field point, if you represent it by the xyz, then the coordinate of the source point is a very small incremental distance along each of the component. That means along the x direction, the incremental distance is dx. Means from the field point, if you want to reach the source point which has a positional vector r dash, then you have to go an incremental distance along the x axis, that is the dx, and along the y axis dy, and along the z axis dz. So the difference between the field point and source point will be the differential distance, which also a infinitesimal distance. So that can be represented as the r dash minus r, and that is dl, which is equals to dx, dy and dz as shown in this equation. However, the separation vector that I have discussed, that is the r, capital R over here, and that is equals to r minus r dash. In the previous case where I have represented the infinitesimal distance dl, that's also a separation vector that can also be represented as dr, but here instead of this dr, I have represented that separation vector or infinitesimal separation vector as dl. But if the distance are not infinitesimal, then you can easily write it as this r. So capital R is nothing but the difference between the field point and the source point. So it is first it is the field point, then it is the source point. So obviously the unit vector you can easily derive by dividing the original vector by the magnitude of the vector, and that is obviously this one. So initially the difference between each component from the field point minus the source point along the x direction, then from the y direction it is the field point coordinate minus the source point coordinate, and along z direction also this one represents the coordinate of the field point and z dash is the coordinate of the source point. Now let's discuss the gradient. What is gradient? Gradient is nothing but the derivative in 3 dimension. So therefore let's discuss the derivative in 1 dimension. Here as you can see, a function fx is plotted along the y direction where the independent variable x is plotted along the x direction, and this function fx is describing an arbitrary path over here. Now if you are interested to find out the change in fx due to a change in delta x, then you can easily or around a particular point, the change in fx due to the change in delta x around a particular point, suppose as at around this point or this point or this point or any other point over this function, then just simply draw the reference line between which you are interested to find the change. So due to a change of delta x in between these two lines on the x-axis, you are interested to find out the change in the function. So this is the delta f. So due to the change of the independent variable along the x-axis, the dependent variable which is the function itself changes of amount delta x. But such kind of change is erroneous. Why? Because as you can see, due to a change of delta x starting from this position to this position, the change in function takes place starting from this position to this position. So a wide range of changes we are taking into account if we consider such a wide range in range of variation in delta in x or in the independent variable. Therefore, to make this calculation much more accurate, we generally consider that delta x tends to 0. And here is the explanation. So this is the rate at which the function gets changed along the x direction, that is delta f divided by delta x. And if you are interested to find out what is the overall change in f due to the change in delta x, so obviously the product of the rate at which the function gets changed multiplied with the range of interest, that is the delta x itself. So obviously their product will give you the delta f. But as I told, such an wide variation is much prone to error. By considering that delta x tends to 0, we basically limiting the range. So delta x tends to 0 around this point of interest means maybe somewhere over here the delta x we are making it 0 or much less than that, so that the delta x we can approximate to 0 but it is not exactly 0. So at that particular point we can write that df, this delta f can be written as the df, that very small differential change in f takes place when you move along the x-axis with a very small differential change. And if you multiply the differential change along the x-axis with the rate of change which is represented by df dx, that is nothing but the derivative of the function, then the product will result in the overall change in the function itself. Therefore, what is the significance of this derivative of the function df dx? The significance is that the df dx represents the slope at the point of interest. So, at this point, the slope becomes parallel to the x-axis. So, the slope is 0. On the other hand, there is a finite slope because the slope represents the angle. If you draw a straight line through that point, that straight line is making an angle theta or whatever, that represents the slope df dx. In a similar way, with respect to this point, the slope is much more steeper. So basically df dx represents how faster the function gets changed if you move along the direction of the independent variable. At this point, the change of the function is much more slower because the slope of this point is parallel to the x-axis. On the other hand, the function moves a bit faster at the second point with respect to the first point, but the function gets changed fastest around this region with respect to any other region of the function itself. So the slope or the gradient in one dimension represents the rate of change of a function with respect to its independent variable. Now let's talk about the gradient in 3 dimension. This one, as you can see in this diagram, is representing a 3-dimensional scalar field such as the maybe a temperature. The coordinate of the first position you can denote it by x, y, z, and coordinate of the second position can be a very incremental distance with respect to the first position, and you can consider the coordinate of the second position as x plus dx, such as the x plus dx, y plus dy, and z plus dz. So this can be considered as the coordinate of the second point. Therefore, when you will move from the first position to the second position, because of the incremental change in the range or the distance of the independent variables, because you are moving in all the 3-dimensional space, that means along all the x direction, y direction, as well as z direction. So this incremental change along the x, which is delta x, the incremental change along y, delta y, and delta z, the incremental change you may experience at this position, if you consider this is the scalar field of temperature, then the incremental change in temperature you may experience on the second point with respect to the first point, and that incremental change is the delta t here I am considering. So you can write that the change in the temperature along the x direction will be equals to the rate of change of the temperature along the x, which is nothing but the delta t divided by delta x. It is simple the one-dimensional representation that I did in my last slide. In a similar way, I can write the one-dimensional change in the temperature, and when you multiply the range of interest, which is delta x, you will get the change of the temperature only along the x direction. And from the concept of the dot product, we can write separately, that is this rate is along the x direction only, so that is why x cap I have added over here, and I put a dot, and I have separated out that this delta x with the x cap. So basically the dot product between the two vectors, as you know, represents the alignment of one vector along the other. So here if you get the dot product, so both are aligned with the x direction, so you will get this expression. In a similar way, you can write for the y direction as well as for the z direction. So in this way you can represent the overall change in temperature of the particular scalar field when you are moving in all 3 dimensions with an incremental change in distance. And finally, you can add them up to represent the total change in the temperature of the scalar field that may take place due to the movement of the infinitesimal distance in all the three dimensions, and here you can represent by the dot product. Next, if you consider that this delta x, delta y and delta z all tend to 0 because of increasing the accuracy of your calculation, then this will be represented by the partial derivative, because the temperature, the scalar field here, is a function of all the three coordinates, that is the x, y and z. Therefore, this one, this one I can write by a separate symbol, that is nabla. This symbol is called the nabla over t, and this is an operator. This operator is called the gradient. Look at here, the vector symbol I have placed, although this symbol is not a vector itself, but here I have placed a vector. Because why this symbol is not a vector? Because this represents this operator del x, x cap, plus del y, y cap, plus del z, z cap, as you can see from the above this expression. If you take this t out of this expression, then you will have this del x, x cap, plus del y, y cap, plus del z, z cap, and that is nothing but this nabla operator or the gradient. Actually, gradient is the operation when you are doing this operation over the scalar field, that means that is the gradient. But this gradient, it is not a vector, because although there exists a unit vector, but in true sense it is the rate of change of a particular field along the x direction, y direction and the z direction. So in true sense it is not a vector. So when we are writing separately this symbol, we should not place a arrow symbol over here. We cannot, because it is not a vector in true sense. But here I have placed, because when you are operating this symbol over this scalar function, then that result, the gradient, become a scalar, become a vector. Because as you can see over here, the gradient of t, it represents a vector. So although it is not an usual sign, but in order to make you understand that the gradient results in a vector field out of a scalar field. And the significance of the vector field when you are operating the gradient operator on a scalar field is that basically you are moving along a particular direction, and which direction you are moving, that will be cleared from this expression. Because the total change in the scalar field is equals to the gradient of that field dotted with the infinitesimal distance that you are moving, and the dot product obviously results in such expression that the magnitude of the first vector times the magnitude of the second vector times the cos theta. Now if you consider that theta is equals to 0, then the dot product gives you the maximum value of the product. And what is the maximum value in this case? The maximum value represents the maximum change in the temperature, or the scalar field is equals to the product of the gradient times the infinitesimal distance that you are moving. It means the gradient signifies that the maximum change in the scalar field that takes place, or we can write the, or we can say the maximum change in t will be experienced if one moves along the direction of the gradient t. And that is why, although you are operating the operator over a scalar, since after being operated the term direction is coming into the picture. What is that direction? The direction along which the maximum change takes place, of the maximum change of the scalar field takes place. That is the direction of interest, and that's why the gradient is a vector, although you are operating the operator over a scalar. And formally you can write that the gradient signifies the direction of the maximum increase of a scalar field with a rate of mod of delta t. So basically it represents the maximum increase of a scalar field. But if you are interested to find a maximum decrease, then obviously you should get a negative sign before the gradient. And at which rate it gets increased? The rate is represented by the magnitude of the gradient. Then what is the significance of being this gradient t or the scalar field is equals to 0? The significance is that the field or the scalar field is a constant field. It is not varying along any direction. It is a constant field. It is absolutely a constant field. Here I will discuss a simple problem on gradient. That is to find the gradient of the magnitude of the positional vector. The step is very simple. Just apply the gradient, and we know this represents the del x x cap plus del y y cap plus del z z cap. And since this magnitude of the position vector r is represented by this one, so this will appear in each and every direction. Now the rest is very simple. Just derivative the function root over x square plus y square plus z square with respect to these x and y and z. So you will end up with this expression. And finally you can easily identify what is this one. The 2 gets cancelled from each of these sections, so this gets cancelled, and finally you will end up with an final expression of this one. Here since the numerator are all equal, so you will get the x cap plus y cap plus z cap. And what is this one? This is nothing but the position vector itself, and you are having the position vector divided by the magnitude of the position vector, and that is nothing but the unit vector along the direction of the position vector. Now what is the significance of this one? The significance of this expression is that suppose you have this x coordinate, y coordinate and z coordinate, and you have a sphere like this one, and this is the position vector or the r vector. Here I am considering that the position of each point on the surface of the sphere is the r vector. I am considering that r can be increased if you consider the another sphere over this. Now if you are asked that what will be the maximum rate at which you can move so that you can reach the outer surface faster if you move from the inner surface of the inner sphere, the answer is that the fastest movement is possible if you move along the direction of the radius. So that is why you are having the radial direction when you will operate, or you will get the gradient of the magnitude of the position vector. That means the fastest change takes place along the direction of the radius, because the radius here is representing the position vector of any point on the surface of a sphere. Similarly, on the any other point on the outer surface of the sphere. So that is why as you know that the gradient represents the maximum rate of change takes place. So what is the or maximum rate of change takes place along the direction that is our interest for having the gradient. So in this case the maximum change takes place along the radial direction. And what is the rate? The rate is nothing but the magnitude of the unit vector. And what is the magnitude of any unit vector? That is, we know that is 1. So with the rate of unity, which is the fastest rate at which you can reach from the surface of the inner sphere to the surface of the outer sphere, and that is the significance of the gradient in this case. And here I have listed 3 problems. The first one, find the gradient of the magnitude of this r square, where r is defined by small r minus small r dashed. That means the capital R represents the separation vector of the field point and the source point. In a similar way, uh, you have to find the gradient of the 1 over magnitude of the separation vector, and that will result in this one. And this is one of the most important result that you should remember also, because in our successive classes I will refer this expression. So derive or prove this expression and remember this expression, that I will refer in my next class or next or successive classes. And the third one also, this is the actually uh, this problem is a special case of this one. So try to solve these three problems.